Hey everybody, welcome to Dracom Tries Racing. We're on Assetto Corsacompetizione today. We're participating in the Rookie Sprint Series on Low Fuel Motorsport. It's week 5, so we'll be here on Watkins, Glen. I was put into the top split for both of these races, which was a first for me. So we're definitely surrounded by some faster drivers today. As such, we're going to be looking to fight from the middle of the pack, which can be a little nerve-wracking as there's usually a lot more traffic on the first lap. Now for this first one, I qualified P14 out of a field of 23. Best qualifying lap on the day being maybe in the low 145s. But without further ado, let's start this first race. Being in P14, it's definitely going to be busy going into the first turn. We're already on the outside, so we're going to take a nice wide line, try to leave a lot of space on the inside, hoping to avoid any contact early. But on the exit, we'll see the cars ahead of us do make some contact. One guy spins, hits us right in the side, takes us into the wall. Not a whole lot we could have done to avoid that one. Unfortunately though, that leaves us with about 20 seconds worth of damage here at the beginning of the race. Not too bad, but we'll see how it affects things as we go. Starting to come down the back straight on the first lap with a lot of rim around us here, which is nice as we come up to the big chicane on Watkins Glen. This one can always be pretty intense when there's traffic, and we actually see someone spin off to the right there. McLaren actually getting a really good run, but not able to make the move work on the outside. In fact, someone else ends up into the barrier on the left, so probably good that the McLaren backed off. Looks like we'll both just take the free position for now. Heading down into the boot for the first time, we've had a net of 1 position gained already. Still a lot of cars close ahead of us. Definitely thinking that they're going to start battling ahead, and we can probably take advantage of that and stay close. As I said earlier though, a lot of fast drivers here in the top split, so things are going to be relatively evenly matched in the middle of the pack as the race starts to settle and everyone's tires start to warm up. We're still in the 2020 Mercedes AMG this week, same as last. For now, I'm still enjoying the overall feel of this car and honestly just the sound it makes. Overall, it felt pretty good to drive here on Watkins. There were a couple of areas like the last few turns of the race and then the chicane and the sweeping turn that follows. It might have felt a little heavy through those, could have also just been a skill issue, but it does have good top end going down the back straight. But anyways, we're going to come to the end of the first lap, still with that net of 1 position gained. Through the beginning of the second lap, things are going to be pretty settled. Car ahead is about half a second, car behind between half a second and a second. Being only half a second behind, sometimes you can get a good tow from the car ahead, maybe get a bit of extra speed, but since they're in a group there, they're also going to have the same deal going for them. I'm also going to take this opportunity to check that damage from the first lap, seeing once again that 20 seconds there. I haven't noticed too much of a difference in how the car is handling, so definitely going to stay out and just continue the race as is. On our second time through the chicane, we're going to see someone goes off ahead and has to rejoin on the inside line, definitely slowing everyone down. I end up taking a bit of a wide line here because I thought I was going to have to avoid an incident. Luckily things settled down pretty quick. It's just going to force more of a battle ahead of us, which we're thinking we could take advantage of and maybe get a bit closer. But we'll just have to see how it goes on our second time through the boot. For now though, with cars close ahead and cars close behind, I'm going to let the race play out a little bit and I'll rejoin you here soon. Okay, I'm back, because on the third time we go through the chicane here, we're actually going to see the Ferrari ahead loses it off to the right into the barrier, getting 1 more position there, and we're going to continue through. Someone else actually ends up spinning on the sweeping turn after, so a net gain of 2 positions on that bit there. That's going to put us in P11 behind the BMW and one of the only other AMGs in this race. And for now we're going to be pretty close behind them. I'm definitely wanting them to engage in a battle and maybe be able to follow someone through. But things are going to remain really tidy for a while, and we're just going to continue to follow this BMW while also paying attention to the McLaren close behind. But as I said, things are going to settle here for a while, so I think I'm going to go ahead and skip forward a few laps. Unfortunately, we're going to have lost touch a bit with the BMW ahead. They're up into P9 at 3.5 seconds, but the McLaren close behind still, less than half a second. Interesting development ahead of us though, as P10 has seemed to really slow down, thinking they got into an incident and took on some damage. This is going to give us an opportunity to break into the top 10. I am wondering through the next couple turns how this pass is going to go. Having likely taken on some damage, I don't know if they're going to let us by or maybe if they're still going to defend, but it looks like as we come up into this next turn they are going to go ahead and take the wide line to let the two of us go by. Very gracious of them, and I appreciate that a lot. But at this point we're up into P10, a little under 13 minutes left in this race. McLaren definitely still close behind, having to continually keep an eye on that and see how it goes. In fact, coming onto the main straight, he's actually going to get a really good run after hitting the wall a little bit. That's going to make me go a bit defensive going into the first corner, trying to hold that inside line, force him on the outside, which he's going to take it, and he's actually going to brake late, shoot on by, and really just make a brilliant pass on the outside of me there as I fall in behind. I'm thinking maybe I can get it back as I'm so close on his rear that I definitely have the toe, can get some draft going onto the back straight. After the S's, we'll see. I start to look to the outside. I think I have a bit of a run. He's definitely holding the inside line. I start pulling along a side. This is definitely dangerous coming up to the chicane. I end up backing off. If anything, I was hoping maybe I could throw him off his line a little bit, but no, he held it really well, ends up pulling way ahead of me here, and as we go into the sweeping turn afterwards. I'm thinking though that since we've stayed pretty close throughout the whole race that I should hopefully be able to keep up with him, maybe have the chance to battle for P10 once again. Not a lot is going to happen though all the way up until the end of the race. In fact, over the next 12 minutes we'll end up losing a bit of time to them, but on the final lap here we'll have an interesting development as P12 and the Ferrari actually gets pretty close, down to under half a second behind. Definitely start to get a bit nervous, and I can feel my tires going out a little bit underneath me, but all I can do is just try to defend this until the end of the lap. Try to come out with at least a P11 finish. I'm going to let the rest of this lap play out until the last few turns where we end up having a really close battle to the finish. Until then, I'll see you in just a moment. Alright, here we go. The Ferrari's going to get a really good run out of this turn, start to look on my outside. I see on the radar there, he's there, so I try to give him the space. That's going to give him the inside line going into the final turn, side by side going down the straight, and we're going to end up in a drag race to the finish, and luckily with the AMG's speed, I'm just able to pull it out and hold that P11 finish, but man, that was close. Let's take a look at that from another couple angles. I really thought when he had that inside line I wasn't going to be able to hold it. Definitely got lucky with the speed around this corner. But a really good race to the line with this guy. Really had my heart rate up. That'll conclude this first race though. Not a bad result. Started in P14, finished in P11. Once again, this was my first top split in the Rookie Sprint Series, so definitely some faster drivers to contend with. I continue to have a lot of fun in ACC, especially in the LFM series, and let's move on to the next race. For this next one, I'm going to have qualified P11, so a little higher in the field. Still on the top split, so once again a lot of faster drivers to contend with. To lay the groundwork for this race though, we're going to have to do a lot of work, as the first lap ended up being quite hairy, but I think the takeaway here is just really try not to get discouraged. Sometimes things are going to happen, especially early in the race, and all you can do is just stick with it and get the best result you can. Now we're into the start of the race. Currently we have the inside line, but the McLaren next to us gets a really good run, going to cut across, and they're actually going to take the inside line for this first corner. We almost look at going 3 wide, but I hold back, end up with another McLaren to my right, and we're going to hold it pretty tight through the S's. I'm trying not to back down on the position, so I hold this outside line, giving me the inside on the next bit. A little bit of contact, but honestly probably netcode. But as we come onto the back straight, I'm going to hope that the speed of the AMG will let me get on by him to go into the chicane. In fact, he's actually going to go ahead and back off on that line to get us through cleanly. In fact, it's actually going to be really tidy for everybody. I don't see any incidents occur here, so good racing by everyone to hold it steady. We've lost 1 position so far to the McLaren ahead, but I'm thinking it's not too big of a deal, you know, we're just letting the race settle. You can see the McLaren behind looking to the outside. I'm going to hold this inside line. We're going to stay pretty close through the corner. I'm going to try to get back ahead on the exit, but he's going to stay right there. Going to have to hold the outside line into this corner, which unfortunately for me is going to put me right into a little bit of this chaos. I get a tap from behind, spins me around. Now I can't really move anywhere because I don't want to affect the cars ahead of me. And in fact, we'll have another small spin here as I start to go out. Kind of an awkward stop, probably another netcode moment. But anyways, we're going to try to get back started, and unfortunately that puts us in dead last. But it is what it is. It happens. We luck out and end up with very light damage after all that. Now this is that moment that I mentioned at the beginning of the race where it's really easy to get discouraged, but sometimes you just have to keep going and you never know what can happen. Sometimes another way to look at it is that you can have a bit of fun trying to crawl back up through the pack, which is what we're going to end up trying to do here. After a couple of grueling laps at the back, things are going to start to kick off into the first corner. Someone's going to have spun off, giving us P19. Up into the S's, someone ahead's actually going to make a mistake, end up hitting the barrier a few signs in the other barrier, and we're going to end up going on their outside to get P18. So already recovering a few positions. Skipping up past the chicane, we're going to see someone has gone off on the inside. I panic a little bit, get loose. I didn't expect to see them coming around the corner. But that there gives us another free position back up into 17, so slowly crawling up through the field. And we're not too far behind the cars ahead. I definitely have a faster pace than they do. Not too concerned about catching up before the end of the race, maybe getting a few more positions. We're going to see going into the toe of the boot, someone else actually ends up going off, dragging the wall on the outside, getting another free position up into P16. So after a big accident in the beginning, only a net position loss of 5. Not too bad so far. From here I'm going to let the race play out a little bit as I try to catch up to the cars in front. If you've made it this far through the video, once again I really appreciate it. This all continues to be pretty new to me. I'm trying to get better at it. But if you feel like coming along on the adventure with me, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Everything is appreciated at the moment. But anyways, as I said, I'm going to let the race play out for a minute and I'll catch you soon. Alright, I'm back. Coming out of the toe here, we get a pretty good run on the McLaren out front. I'm going to fall right behind, get as much toe as I can before pulling to the inside line. Definitely going to look to make the pass in this corner. Going to brake a little late. They're going to concede the position heavily, really not fighting me at all. We're going to go on by into P15. From here, we're going to focus on just continuing to chase down the cars up front. We can see we got maybe 2.5 seconds to the next position. In fact, by the time we get to the first corner of the next lap, a couple of cars ahead of the green Lamborghini have started to engage in a battle, giving us both a run to catch up. Also really closes our gap to the green Lamborghini out front, as they had to slow down a little bit to make these passes. That'll now put us up into P14 as we come down the back straight towards the chicane. For the rest of this lap though, it was relatively uneventful, so I'm going to go ahead and skip forward to the end of it. Now starting the next lap, about 8.5 minutes left in the race, we're going to get a really good run on the green Lamborghini on this turn as they go a little bit wide to miss the apex. I'm going to move pretty quick to the inside line through the S's. Got to be careful not to hit this curb. I tap it just a little bit, it can be dangerous. I found that out the hard way in the past, as that little bit of sidewalk can really unsettle the car. But now we're up into P13, about 8 minutes left in the race, not too far behind, a couple cars ahead of us. But the amount of time we have left, I'm thinking I can probably at least pass those two. P10 is about 8 seconds ahead there. I'm not thinking I can close that gap unless there are any mistakes. But things settled again here for a little bit, so I'm going to skip ahead once again, at least a little bit, until some closer battling begins to happen. That's going to take us to the next lap, where through the S's here, I'm going to get a lot of draft from the McLaren, definitely closing the gap a lot, and just simply getting a lot more speed on the exit. So I'm going to look to the outside, definitely coming up fast. Going to put us side by side, coming up towards the chicane. They back off early, allowing us to go through here cleanly, putting us all the way up into P12. So we're almost back where we started after qualifying P11 and experiencing that wreck on lap 1. And while at this point I don't think we can make the top 10, we end up being able to come up on P11, hoping to at least gain everything we lost. In fact, by the time we get to the last lap, we're going to get the opportunity to make that happen. They don't get a great exit on the first turn, we do. Now that's going to put us into their slipstream, which is going to pull us in even faster through the S's, and it's looking like it's going to be a similar move to the one we made on the guy before. So we're going to look to the outside before we get up to the chicane. Lots of speed. We're going to go on past. Also similar to before, they're going to back out early to try to let us go through clean, although it looks like they unsettle their car a little bit, get a little out of control, but recover it, definitely enough to hold their position. And finally, after all that, we're back up into P11, so full recovery. I was definitely incredibly pleased with this, although I really would have liked to race some of the guys up front. But either way, it made for a really fun race, and I was glad I saw it through. Interestingly enough, that means we finished both races in P11, but that'll bring us to the end of this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you for the next one.